Oh, finally. Hi, I'm Chugg, and I love Pokemon. I love everything about the games. Competitive battling, completing Pokedexes, Nuzlockes, but there's one aspect of the games I've been souring on recently: shiny hunting. I've poured hundreds of hours into collecting these different colored animals, but whether it's because of the ease of access of hunting in the new games or the compulsive need I have for any Pokemon I use in any capacity to be shiny hunting has lost its spark. So, I did what any reasonable adult would do. I slammed my head into a brick wall for 800 hours to try to get it back. For those uninitiated, a shiny living dex is where you obtain a shiny individual of each species of Pokemon in any given Pokemon game's Pokedex. So, to complete the Bulbasaur line in this challenge, I'd need to catch 3 shiny Bulbasaur, evolve one into Ivysaur and another into Venusaur. Or, to complete the Tentacool line, I could catch 2 shiny Tentacool and evolve one, or I can catch a shiny Tentacool and Tentacruel. Since I'm doing this in Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu, the challenge will be completed once I have a shiny individual of each of the first 150 Pokemon. This excludes Mew, since its shiny is unobtainable, Meltan and Melmetal, since they're only obtainable in Pokemon Go and are currently shiny locked, and the Alolan forms. To achieve this, I can play on both Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. However, I must play on fresh save files using one profile on one Switch console. I can interact with other consoles exclusively for trade evolutions, and I'm also allowed to use Pokemon Home to transfer between my Eevee and Pikachu save files. Any Pokemon caught for this challenge must have the OTs of this save file, so no trading for shinies from anyone else or buying shinies off of eBay. I'm not using any major glitches or exploits, not that there are any I know of in this game, and I am allowed to transfer Pokemon between my save files to get the shiny charm and use 2-player mode or any other advantage that the game intends for. Now, with that out the way, let's get into day 1. I started the challenge on the 29th of December 2023. My goal for the first 2 days was simple: beat Let's Go Pikachu as quickly as possible, catch everything I can, and send everything over to Let's Go Eevee so that we can get the shiny charm. That's right, the first objective was to get what is basically the final endgame reward. That's because I knew I had a lot of shiny hunting ahead of me, so getting it was going to be crucial to optimizing this challenge. So I started a new save file, named my rival Shiny Mewtwo, as I figured Mewtwo would be the end goal for this challenge, and began my speedy journey through the Kanto region. I followed a catch-em-all speedrun route, specifically this guide by Kerbis54, which allowed me to take the most efficient path through the game while catching all of the 134 obtainable Pokemon, minus Kabutops, which I needed to evolve in Let's Go Eevee. It was actually pretty fun flying through the game like this. It immediately taught me the power of 2-player mode and gave me some confidence in catching wild Pokemon quickly. I ended the first day of the challenge with 87 Pokemon registered in my Pokedex, 6 gym badges, and heaps of motivation to smash out the rest of the Pokedex the following day. On the 30th, I cleaned up the rest of the gym badges, defeated the Elite Four, and caught and evolved the remaining Pokemon I needed, including the legendary birds and Mewtwo. This did mean I was locked into shiny hunting the legendaries in Let's Go Eevee, but that was fine, since it's the game I intended to complete most of the challenge on. Once this was done, it was time to start our main file on Let's Go Eevee. We got our starter Eevee, who is unfortunately shiny locked, played until we unlocked Pokeballs, and then began transferring everything from our Pikachu save over to Eevee, which left me with a save file with 134 Pokemon registered with just 13 minutes of playtime. All that was left was to rush through the story once again until we could obtain the remaining version exclusives. All we needed was access to Fuchsia City, Saffron City, and Surf to reach the power plant. In this game, the HMs are replaced by secret techniques that are taught by different NPCs around the map, and they don't actually require gym badges to be usable. So all I had to do was defeat the first 3 gyms, thwart Team Rocket at their hideout in Celadon, and get the Poke Flute from Mr. Fuji to get access to every area I needed. And on the start of New Year's Day, that's what I did. And with all that done, we had a save file with all of the first 150 Pokedex entries filled out. Now, despite the fact that we only had 3 gym badges, it is actually possible to get the shiny charm now. We can just talk to the Game Freak director in Celadon City to obtain the key to making this whole challenge a lot less painful. This improves our base shiny odds from 1 in 4096 to 1 in 1365, which will further increase to 1 in 1024 for basically every hunt using a lure. I took some time to defeat Erica and some other trainers to make money for Pokeballs so I could start shiny hunting. But I decided to purposefully refrain from beating the Elite Four for one main reason. I didn't want to unlock the sky. Even though having access to the flying mounts would be helpful, most open routes in the game have 3 additional sky spawns that unlock once you beat the champion, and I figured that this would just lead to me finding millions of shiny Pidgey instead of the Pokemon that I'm actually hunting for. In fact, I named my rival on this save file Shiny Pidgey because I anticipated it being my most common shiny for this reason. What actually ended up being my most common shiny is really interesting, but we'll need to wait until the end of the video before we talk about that. Before we get to the start of the shiny hunts, I wanted to explain some of the planning I did before this challenge. I need to catch 150 shinies at least. That is going to take a lot of time. That meant I needed to optimize as much as possible in this challenge. I had a tentative goal of being finished before the end of March, which, well, you can see that it didn't really work out that way. But I was aware that it was an overly optimistic goal and I still wanted to try to make it. So I organized every Pokemon that I needed to hunt into different categories listed by which method I figured would be the most optimal way to hunt it. So let's talk through these real quick. First are your bog standard soft resets. This will include the fossils and the legendaries. There is no real way to optimize these hunts with just one console outside of pressing the A button as fast as possible. However, these hunts are one of the most important reasons why we got the shiny charm, as 1 in 1,365 odds are much easier to work with than 1 in 4,096. Next are a type of hunt I call forced respawn. You'll notice in this section we have an eclectic group of characters. All of these guys fall into a category of rare spawn aptly named rare spawns. On the routes where these Pokemon can be found, they only have a measly 0.5% spawn rate. However, their spawn rate increases as the length of any catch combo increases, not just a catch combo of the rare spawn. The increase is according to this chart, where at a chain of 11 and onwards, there is a 50% chance for any spawn to be the rare spawn Pokemon of that route. While this sounds great, the catch is that you're limited to only one spawn at a time, which means hunting these species can be very difficult. Starting a catch combo is hard because the initial spawn rate is just so low, plus all the rare spawn Pokemon have low catch rates. However, being locked to one spawn means that if you just run around looking for them, you're only going to be seeing 1 or 2 a minute at most. So, I theorized a different method. I would instead force these Pokemon to respawn by encountering them and running away, hence the name Forced Respawn. Every time I encounter and run away from one of these Pokemon, I have a 50% chance of the next Pokemon to spawn being the rare spawn. It takes about 8 to 12 seconds to encounter a rare spawn, flee, and then wait for a new one to spawn. This meant with decent spawning luck, I could be seeing 5 to 6 of these Pokemon a minute, which means we'll be hitting odds roughly every 3.4 hours. This is a method with no risk of a broken chain, pretty decent lure conservation, and less chance of a non-target shiny, since a 50% rare spawn rate means half of our spawns are going to be of our target. It felt like a promising idea, and one I was excited to implement straight away. Moving on, everything else fell into 2 types of hunts. Catch combos are the main shiny hunting method in this game. I'll go over them in excessive detail later on, but the important thing with them is that the shiny odds cap out at 1 in 273, and they're a little slow. Lure random encounters just refers to doing encounters solely in the overworld with just a lure active to boost the shiny odds to 1 in 1024. This can be done by running around to get new spawns, leaving and entering routes to generate new encounters, or even just by standing still if you want. To determine which method is optimal for each individual species, you need to decide whether it's faster to reach odds by doing catch combos or by doing random encounters. You do this by just comparing the odds. 1024 divided by 273 equals around 3.75. So if you're encountering 4 of your target species in the overworld in the time it takes to catch 1, it should be faster to do lure random encounters. Each catch combo attempt takes around 20 seconds, assuming you get good encounter luck, a good attack cycle, and catch on your first ball. So, if I felt like I'd be getting 4 encounters every 20 seconds, I put it into lure random encounters, which ended up being anything that was the most or second most common Pokemon on any route. Everything else, I felt like I should catch combo. It's definitely worth noting that if you're hunting in this game without a shiny charm, the comparison is instead 6.5 encounters for every catch, so it'll be better in more cases to catch combo. This initial list definitely isn't perfect, There were many Pokemon that I originally intended to catch combo that were actually faster to randomly encounter, and Goldeen specifically was way easier to catch combo, but this list definitely helped me plan out this challenge more effectively. I also made a spreadsheet where I gave each Pokemon a priority value, where higher priority Pokemon were ones I felt like I was unlikely to find while hunting for other species, and therefore should prioritize hunting first. Lower priority Pokemon were ones I felt like I was very likely to phase on, and therefore I should leave until last, since I'd likely find all the ones I need while hunting for other Pokemon anyway. This priority system led me to the conclusion that my first goal should be to hunt for all the starter Pokemon. So that's what I did. I started with Bulbasaur, both because it's the first Pokemon in the Pokédex, making it a fitting starting point, but also because Viridian Forest is the easiest place to hunt in, with a whopping 20 ground spawns. So I worked my way up to a catch combo of 11 so that I could start spawning Bulbasaur, pop my first lure, and a minute later, found my first shiny. A Metapod. Kinda lame, but it was my first shiny, and it was quick, so I figured that it was a good sign of things to come. Turns out, what was to come was more Metapod, because after an hour and a half of despawning Bulbasaur, I found another one. This wasn't a huge deal because I did still need another one to evolve into Butterfree, but it meant already that I only needed one shiny Caterpie to complete the line, and any future Metapod wouldn't be helpful in completing the challenge. My string of non-Bulbasaur shinies didn't stop there though, as after another hour I encountered my first shiny Pidgey, the first of many. And after another hour, my first Caterpie, meaning I had completed the first evolutionary line of the challenge already. Now that I didn't need any more Caterpie, I decided to chain Weedle to 11 instead, which definitely paid off, as after another 2 hours I found another Caterpie. On the first day, I'd already completed an entire evolutionary line and gotten a duplicate, but I wasn't going to be satisfied with no Bulbasaur on the first day, and this persistence finally paid off. 1,593 encounters took, which is like, not that bad, like 8 hours? Now, I was a little over odds here, which isn't really a big deal, but at the pace I was going at, it was going to take another 3 days of being in the forest to complete this line. I decided to push through one last power hour of encounters for the night, which ended up being a pretty good idea. Despite that reaction, it did feel good to get another Bulbasaur, and only after another 118 seen. But better than that was what happened next. Oh my god. Bulbasaur 3 appeared after only 124 more encounters, and with that, I was happy to call it for the day and move on to Charmander tomorrow. This first day of hunts was one of the most productive in the entire challenge, and that last stretch of Bulbasaurs put me on good pace to finish this challenge sooner rather than later. Now, for hunting Charmander, I had two options. I could either hunt on Route 4, which, with 4 max spawns and phase options like Spearow and Rattata, sounded like a horrible time, or I could hunt in Rock Tunnel, which was home to my beloved. Rock Tunnel was the obvious choice, and another very fast area to hunt in, due to its high spawn cap of 10 and the ability to reset encounters super quick by going up and down the ladder. It takes about 3 seconds to travel up or down a ladder, and since my goal here was primarily Charmander, I could churn through encounters by traveling up a ladder, waiting a second or two for a Charmander, and then going down the ladder. With this method, the shiny started coming in quick, with a Machop after about an hour and a half, and a second Machop another hour later.
Machop.
It shouldn't surprise you that our first shiny Charmander came not too long after another hour, and 1,422 total Charmander seen. It had taken me almost 8 hours to hit 1,500 Bulbasaur, and while that's partially due to me starting quite slow with the Bulbasaur, it's obvious how impactful having a quick way to reset a route can be. I ended the day with our first shiny Golbat after 57 minutes,
Bat.
and a shiny Graveler an hour after.
Rock.
With the New Year holidays ending, I returned to work, which meant I had less time each day to work on this challenge, and therefore, I was putting up worse numbers. The first shiny of the day came after a pretty tame 2 hours, but it was here that I made a pretty crucial mistake.
Dead mom.
Hey! I don't think you accidentally do that.
We're about to find out.
While I did end up catching the Cubone, what I said was uncalled for, and I think the Pokemon gods heard me because something terrible happened not much later.
Whoops. That's not good at all.
You've got to be kidding me. Oh no.
After another 1,389 Charmander, I had my first failed shiny, and it was at the hands of the one I hold most dear. Luckily, it only took another hour before I reclaimed what I had just lost.
He's back, baby.
January 4th was a pretty quick day. I only played for a few hours, and my day started with a bit of an unfortunate find.
He's a banana. Bye.
But I was able to finish up another evolutionary line an hour later with a small naked man.
Oh! Naked.
Ooh.
Sorry.
My goal for the 5th was simple: get the last Charmander. I found the first shiny of the day after about an hour and 45 minutes, whom I was much nicer to this time.
Baby boy.
Then a few minutes later, deja vu struck.
8 minutes. You are useless to me.
And if you thought that was fast, watch this.
What the hell is going on? That's 4 minutes after the most recent Cuban. Why?
I finally had the Charmander line done, despite some setbacks, which meant it was time to force respawn hunt Squirtle. I got onto hunting it right away, and was able to clock a fair few hours that night, but it wasn't until the 6th that it finally arrived, after an 8-hour phase. Considering my luck with the other 2 starters, I should have expected a long phase for Squirtle, but 8 hours for a single shiny was one of the most grueling hunts in the whole challenge, which was compounded by routes 24 and 25 only having a maximum of 4 ground spawns. Squirtle number 2 was a similar story and didn't appear until January 7th after another 5-hour stretch. Having seen 962 Squirtle in this phase, it was technically under odds if you're just looking at Squirtle encounters, but it was pretty insane that between both super long Squirtle hunts, I had seen 0 other shinies. Thankfully, the final Squirtle was the quickest one, after only 174 encounters and half an hour, which meant I could move on to my first proper catch combo hunt, Ekans. And oh boy, this was a painful one. Not the first one, actually. He came after a combo of 104, but Ekans number 2? That guy taught me what it really means to catch combo. The capture system is the Let's Go game's defining feature. In the other mainline games, catching a Pokemon hinges on your understanding of Pokemon battles and attacks, whereas in Let's Go, it's your skill with the motion control that influences your success. When you enter a battle, the first thing you see is the circle, which looks just like the one in Pokemon Go. The outer circle determines your capturable region and follows the Pokemon wherever it goes, while the inner circle determines how good your capture attempt is. The inner circle takes 2 seconds to go from max size to gone, and constantly shrinks even if the Pokemon attacks or you throw a ball. And the smaller the circle is, the better the benefits. The type of throw you get is called your technique, and it affects basically everything. This formula is how the game determines your catch rate. It looks like a lot, but it makes sense once you break it down. The inner circle's color reflects this catch rate, with green meaning you're more likely to catch and a red circle meaning you're dreaming. Each Pokemon has a different catch rate, with lower catch rates meaning harder to catch Pokemon. Playing in 2-player mode doubles your catch rate. In this game, each Pokemon has its own combat points, which is meant to indicate how strong they are. But also, stronger Pokemon are harder to catch. Thankfully, you can mitigate this. The more of a particular species you capture, the less that combat points impact the catch rate until you hit 100 Court, where this part of the formula becomes 0 and basically cancels out, meaning the strongest individual of the species is just as easy to catch as the weakest. There are 5 types of Pokeballs in this game, and as far as I can tell, they all do the same thing they do in the other mainline games. In 2-player mode, the game averages out the 2 Pokeballs used. You get a 1.5 times bonus to the catch rate before you enter Viridian Forest for the first time, which doesn't affect me. There are 3 types of berries in the game. Nanab berries decrease how often a Pokemon moves around, but I didn't really use them because it was hard to justify it when I could just get good. Pinap berries make it more likely that you'll get items after battle, but if you're going to be comboing as much as I did, you'll get plenty of items without needing these, which means the only berries worth using are the raspberries. These guys boost your catch rate depending on their rarity, which is sick. And the boost from that is multiplied by the boost from your technique. There are 4 ways to throw the ball in this game and 3 throwing strengths. Overarm is the fastest throw, and you do it by holding the remote vertically and swinging down 90 degrees. Underarm is slightly slower, but a little more consistent to aim, and to do it you just hold the remote flat and swing upwards 90 degrees. You can do a side throw by holding the remote flat and swinging it to your desired direction, and it basically has the same trajectory as an overarm throw. And finally, you can throw in handheld mode. This is the easiest to use since you can use motion controls or the control stick to aim your throw, which you can't do outside of handheld mode. However, you can only throw overarm in this mode. Everything in this game can, and should, be caught with a standard strength throw, but it is also possible to swing too fast and overshoot, or swing too slow and have the ball plop down in front of you. A standard throw will account for the verticality of the Pokemon, so you don't need to throw harder to catch something that looks further away. In 2-player mode, both players get to throw a ball, and the aim is to connect with the target at the same time, which activates a synchro throw. Aside from looking sick as hell, it also provides different bonuses, notably to your catch rate. I didn't have anyone in my life willing to play 800 hours of Let's Go Eevee with me, so I just snapped both Joy-Cons onto a connector and did my synchro throws that way. In battle, each wild Pokemon has 2 types of animations. While doing an attack animation, the circle disappears and any ball thrown will just bounce off of the Pokemon, making them impossible to capture. The attacks resemble a lunge or a swipe, and the length varies from Pokemon to Pokemon but is consistent within species. I couldn't find a set pattern in when they attack, but once they attack they cannot immediately act again for a few seconds, making this a good time to throw a ball. The other animation is a flee animation, which indicates that they're about to, well, flee. This animation resembles a roar, and the circle does not disappear during it, which is the easiest way to tell the 2 animations apart. This is actually a mechanic we knew very little about when I started the challenge. In my experiences, I felt like skittish Pokemon like Magnemite or low catch rate Pokemon like Chansey had higher flee rates than others, but we never really had any real documentation. So when the Pokemon Mechanics GOAT Anubis made a tweet inviting people to ask mechanics related questions, I jumped on the opportunity and Anubis delivered. So here's how it works. A Pokemon will never start with a flee animation, but can do so after the first time it breaks out of a ball. From then on, the Pokemon has a chance to flee after each breakout and every 30 seconds after. Besides the legendaries, who cannot flee, and Abra, who always tries to flee after a breakout, every Pokemon works the exact same. Each Pokemon starts the battle with a value of 242 over 256, which is their chance to stay after a breakout, and it's actually your technique that determines whether the Pokemon will be more likely to flee or not. After a breakout, the game rolls a number between 0 and 255, and if that number is larger than the Pokemon's current flee rate, they'll do a flee animation. Excellent throws will not change the flee chance at all, so if you play perfectly, the flee rate of all Pokemon will stay at 242 over 256, or roughly a 5% chance to stay. Worse throws lower this value and consequently make it more likely the Pokemon will flee. This is such a cool way for this mechanic to actually work, because while all Pokemon work the same, in a way certain Pokemon are more likely to flee since, whether it's due to movement or catch rate, they are harder to catch. Those skittish Pokemon were actually more likely to flee because they were harder to score excellent throws on. Once a Pokemon does a flee animation, you get about 1 to 2 seconds before it flees, and it must do this animation before it can flee. If you've ever had a Pokemon suddenly flee without doing the animation, you either missed it, or the animation started right as you connected with a throw. If you're unsure, the best strategy is to wait for an animation. If it's an attack animation, you're good to keep throwing balls, but if it's a flee animation, you should flee yourself, since a wild Pokemon successfully fleeing will break an active chain. Some Pokemon are also capable of moving, and there are 3 main ways they can do that. The first is general movement. Some Pokemon fly around, some move in figure eights, others jump from side to side. There are too many types of general movement to categorize properly, but most can fit into either consistent or random movement. Consistent movers move at a consistent rate or in a consistent pattern. These guys aren't that hard to catch, just wait for them to be at the center of your screen and throw the ball forwards. Random movers are much more of a pain. Some, like Magnemite, just jerk around in random spots, making them hard to predict. Most of the time, I just wait for them to stop moving and hope they don't start again by the time I throw the ball. Others, like Mr. Mime, jump back and forth quickly in a random direction at random intervals. The second main type of movement is jumping. When a Pokemon jumps, it is able to leap over a throw, making you miss. While it can feel like the Pokemon is able to know exactly when you're about to throw, the jumps are random. Sometimes it's a single jump, sometimes it's many in succession, so it's best to wait until they stop jumping to throw a ball. They also won't ever start jumping directly after an attack. The final movement type is much more subtle. Some Pokemon shift their circle slightly during their idle animation. It can be really hard to land an excellent throw on a Pokemon like Tauros because the inner circle can move ever so slightly to the side, making it impossible to hit. This, paired with Tauros' low catch rate, made it one of the most flea-prone Pokemon in the game. The last thing I want to note is sometimes you can do everything perfectly and still have the ball bounce off. My theory for this is that the circle is actually a 2D plane that sits in front of the 3D model, and some Pokemon, like Goldeen, have appendages that slightly poke through the model and can deflect the ball if they're hit, so look out for that too. Upon catching a Pokemon, you get many different rewards. Candies can be used to buff your Pokemon up, though I ended up selling them for more Pokeballs most of the time. They start dropping after you've caught 30 of whichever Pokemon you just caught on your save file. The more you've caught, the better candies start to drop. The amount you get is pretty intuitive too. Having a better technique or catching Pokemon that are large or small will give you better rewards. Sometimes you'll get the standard forms of the berries, though you can't get the silver or gold ones here. You get different EXP rewards for different things too, like having a combo, landing a better throw, catching on your first throw, catching larger or smaller Pokemon, landing a synchro throw, or getting a technique bonus, which is different to the techniques we talked about earlier. There is also a traded Pokemon bonus and a friendship bonus which don't appear on the summary screen. The rest of the benefits of capturing are better talked about a bit later, so I guess I should segue to if you capture multiple of the same species in a row, you will start a catch combo. Each subsequent capture will increase the combo. A combo will break if you capture anything other than your target species, if a Pokemon flees from battle, or if you close and reopen the game. Nothing else can break the combo, which means you can also flee to maintain a chain. Having a combo active has many benefits. You get an EXP bonus on captures, starting from a combo of 1 all the way up to a 3 times increase at a combo of 41+. You can increase the spawn rate of your target species, which caps out at a 50% increase at a 31 combo. And as I mentioned earlier in the planning phase, you can also increase the rate of rare spawn Pokemon appearing, which caps out at a chain of 11. Every subsequent spawn of your comboed species will start getting guaranteed maxed out IVs, and will also start getting extra rolls on their height and weight, making extra large and extra small variants more common. And then, the big one is that the combo will also increase your shiny odds. If you're hunting like me with the shiny charm and a lure active, at an 11 chain, your odds become 1 in 585. At a combo above 21, they reach 1 in 373, and at a chain of 31+, they max out at 1 in 274, which are the best odds you can be hunting at in the game. However, unlike the other benefits of catch combos, this increased shiny chance only applies to the next spawn of your target species. It was a misconception in the early days of this game that every Pokemon that spawned had increased odds, but no, it's only the next spawn of your comboed species that spawns after your most recent capture that gets the boost. This means that to keep increasing your odds of getting a shiny, you must keep comboing, which means that some catch combo hunts can take a pretty long time. So how do we optimize it? The main goal here is to go fast. In battle, you want to be catching the Pokemon as soon as possible, as consistently as possible. For stationary Pokemon, I think the best method of capturing is to wait for the first attack animation and then throw the ball. This is easily the most consistent method, as the Pokemon will always stay still after the attack, meaning you can aim for an excellent throw as efficiently as possible. You won't be losing time on your ball getting deflected, and most Pokemon will attack pretty quickly. If a Pokemon has an annoying movement pattern, then I would try for a capture immediately before they can move, but if that fails, then any subsequent throws, I would wait for an attack. The biggest time loss you can have is a broken chain, so if a Pokemon ever breaks out of a ball, it's always worth it to wait for the next animation so you can be certain it won't flee right away. And if it does a flee animation, then you can run from the battle safely. After each capture, you should wait for a new Pokemon of your target species to spawn to make sure you don't miss out on the boosted encounter, and then you should re-encounter that specific spawn even if there are other active spawns of your target. This is because sometimes the next spawn won't be of your target, and if you hit the spawn cap of the route and your boosted spawn hasn't shown up yet, you'll need to wait for something else to despawn. According to Cerebi, it can take up to 150 seconds for a spawn to despawn. However, in my experiences, 30 to 45 seconds is more common. Therefore, you want to make sure the despawn timer is constantly ticking down for as many Pokemon as possible so that they'll despawn soon and give you a chance to see your boosted spawn. If everything is a fresh spawn, then you should encounter a non-rare spawn and flee from it to manually despawn it. Now that we're going fast, another limiting factor is money. Longer hunts means more balls thrown, so you want to be conscious of this. You want to aim to only throw one ball and to get as much value out of this ball as possible. Therefore, I recommend throwing the cheapest ball you have that would guarantee a catch and aiming to throw an excellent throw to maximize your item drops. Finally, you'll need to make sure you're staying sane. You're going to be throwing a lot of balls, and I was finding that the overarm throws, while they were technically faster, also led to wrist pain, whereas underarm throws were easier on my wrists, so I started using them, even if they were slightly slower. Everything comes together to make an average encounter look like this. I would encounter the boosted spawn, leaving the other spawns with lower despawn timers active. I would wait for an attack, and then aim to land an excellent throw at the earliest opportunity. In this case, the earliest opportunity is right after an attack, which I can't react to. However, I know that it takes exactly 2 seconds for the circle to decrease, and I know how long the attack will last, since each Ekans attacks for the same amount of time. Therefore, I can do an underarm throw during the attack animation, since I know that the circle will reappear at the perfect size for an excellent throw just as my ball connects. I don't lose time for doing an underarm throw, so I save my wrists some pain, and I guarantee the capture since I know which ball is optimal to use. Then, I just need to wait for the next spawn and rinse and repeat. The more you combo, the more comfortable you become with its little intricacies and the more consistent and fast you become. The more I've learned about catching in this game, the cooler it's become to me. There are so many little things to account for and understand in what is on the surface such a simple mechanic. Just swing your remote and you'll catch the guy. I know the Let's Go games get hate for the Pokemon Go catching style, but I hope understanding how it all really works and seeing how cool and important it is to optimize the process encourages some people to give catch combos a second look. Luckily for me, one of the biggest benefits of doing catch combo hunts is that you're very likely to find your target because it's the only Pokemon you're significantly increasing the odds of. So after not too much longer, great! Catching this Spearow meant breaking my chain of 450 and therefore having to start over. The second Ekans didn't come on the 8th. It didn't come on the 9th either, which made it the first day of the challenge that I came up with nothing. I pushed forwards on the 10th, and after a third day of hunting and a second chain of 565,
finally,
it took me catching over 1,000 Ekans to get the 2 that I needed, making this both a long and tedious hunt. This was the first hunt that took a bit of motivation out of me, so for my next hunt, I knew I needed to do something special. It was time to head to Route 13 to hunt for my favorite Pokemon, Farfetch'd. He's funny, and he's food. Due to there being no easy way to reset the route, I decided to catch combo Farfetch'd too, which I didn't mind doing because it meant I got to see his beautiful face more often. While I didn't find anything for the remainder of the day, it is worth noting that I got my first Pokemon to level 100, my starter Eevee. If catch combos are good for anything, it's for level grinding. I woke up early on the 11th to start hunting, which paid off just 8 minutes into my day. For as the saying goes, the early worm gets the bird.
oh my god. He's so cute.
Getting Farfetch'd so quickly at just a chain of 69, don't say it, definitely brought my motivation back, especially for catch combos, so I decided to head back to Viridian Forest to catch combo Pikachu. This was definitely a mistake. In my planning, I listed Pikachu as a catch combo hunt because of its low spawn rate. However, this is a flawed thought process. If I were to combo to 31, Pikachu would have an overall spawn rate of 52.5, and by leaving and re-entering Viridian Forest consistently, I can quickly spawn 10 to 16 Pokemon, meaning I could be seeing upwards of 7 to 8 Pikachu in the same time frame that I'd be catching one. Another thing that makes this hunt a little more annoying is surprisingly Viridian Forest's high spawn rate. In the time that it takes for a new Pikachu to spawn, and for me to run over and encounter it, I'm seeing 2 to 4 other non-booster spawns, meaning there's a decent chance that the next shiny I see won't even be the one I'm trying to combo. Now, similarly to Ekans, this didn't appear to be an issue at first, as the first Pikachu came at a quick chain of 107. But it wasn't until the next day that things started to go a bit south. At a chain of 180 Pikachu, our good friend Shiny Metapod reared his ugly orange head, face, body thing.
Yo, shiny red guy.
And after another 2 hours of chaining at 310 Pikachu, I found a second shiny Pidgey, which I decided to break my chain for. Now, something that I haven't mentioned that adds to the grind here is that because I'm still early in the story, I'm having to constantly go and sell all the candies I accrue from chaining to be able to afford the Pokeballs I'm using, which takes a minute or two to do, and that really adds up. The fact that the chain was progressing much slower than expected, and the fact that I had to break my chain for the Pidgey, made me realize that I was overvaluing catch combos. So on the 13th, I decided to finish grinding out this hunt, which was finally over after a second chain of 577.
These catch combo phases are getting kind of long.
I then refocused on the quick lure random encounter hunts that I knew would be fast, because taking 3 days to finish up one species was just too slow a progress for me. So off to Mount Moon I went, which ended up being one of the most insane sections of this challenge. Welcome to the basement floor of Mount Moon. If you take this ladder down, you end up in this small room, which is where the magic happens. Since it's the only area on this floor that you can access without having to go back up the ladder, it's the only place Pokemon can spawn while you're here. Combine this small floor space with a spawn cap of 10, and you have a spot that spawns Pokemon very quickly and has a perfect way of resetting them with the ladder. 13 minutes into being here, we found our first shiny, a Zubat. Now, this wasn't the ideal shiny to find first, as it meant we were already done with its evolutionary line, and therefore any more green bats we encounter are useless to us, but it was kind of what I was expecting to happen. And it didn't matter too much when 4 minutes later, we found another shiny.
Oops.
While failing that one sucked, 2 shinies in 10 minutes was a good sign, and the next 2 hours proved that it wasn't just dumb luck. Over the course of our first 2.5 hours in Mount Moon, we had found a Zubat, 5 Geodude, one of which we failed, and only 2 of which we actually needed, and our first Paras. After such a slow few days prior, I definitely needed this boost in luck and shiny encounters. Now, we only needed 3 more shinies before Mount Moon was completely done. 1 Paras and 2 Clefairy. These were 2 Pokemon I had originally intended to do as catch combos, as they have relatively low spawn rates, but I knew the ladder resets were too fast to not take advantage of. This is where I made a small optimization. I decided to do a catch combo of 6 Clefairy. If I were to go to a combo with 31, I would be seeing more Clefairy than anything else in a full room of 10, but I was only waiting for 5 to 6 spawns before going back up the ladder. At a combo above 11, the rare spawn Chansey starts being able to appear, which means I would be effectively giving up a spawn on the floor for Chansey, and I didn't want to risk finding a shiny one of them before a Clefairy or Paras, since I knew there would be many more opportunities to get the Chansey I needed. So instead, I changed to 6. A combo with 6 puts me in the highest bracket of increased encounter rate without forcing a rare spawn. Now, I didn't have much time on the 14th to play, but I think the game knew that.
What is going on? I'm not even at my chain of C.
My day started off with another quick Geodude, then
I stopped recording, and the second I stopped recording, oh, I can't take a video capture. The second I stopped recording for that Geodude, just then, the instant I got a Clefairy spawn. What's going on?
2 encounter Clefairy was crazy, and guaranteed that I was at least making some progress for that day. I played for another hour before calling it. I unfortunately didn't have time to play again until the 17th, which began with my first Zubat duplicate, which was rectified about an hour and a half later with the second Clefairy popping up. This just left Paris. Now, one downside to only going for a 6 combo on Paris is that it does leave up a few more opportunities for Geodude and Zubat to be shiny. At this point, it was starting to get ridiculous how many Geodude I was finding. About 10 minutes later, another Zubat appeared, and 20 minutes after that, I reached a breaking point.
Oh my. Shiny Geodude! Yes, I'm so excited! I've been waiting so long for this! I can't believe it! My own shiny Geodude. Wow. I'm gonna call you friend. Let's get out of here. I'm so happy that I found you. You know what? We're gonna go on an adventure, you and I. Alright, friend. You're coming with me. Wow, you're so shiny in this game. Friend, it's time for our big adventure. Let's go. Nice. Isn't it so beautiful out here? I'm really glad I met you. It's really peaceful in here, isn't it? Man, these berries look so good. Wow, thank you, friend. Oh no, it's your Ruby. Kill him. Careful climbing up. I wouldn't want you to fall down. Would you look at that? We made it to the top. I couldn't have done that without you, friend. Whoa, you just killed one bird with like 20 stones. Wow, an alpha. Do this, friend. I believe in you. Yes! Oh. You did it! You evolved! I'm so happy for you, friend. Let's keep adventuring. Kill him. I know he's one of you. You're golden. You're better. Kill him. Good. Thanks for being here, friend. Whoa, you're evolving again? I'm so proud of you, friend. Oh, look at this little guy. Man, it's really cold out here, huh, friend? How about we go back to the village? I have one more thing I want to show you before our adventure ends. Alright, let's go. This night sky is so beautiful. And so is this view. I wouldn't want to spend this with anyone but you. Almighty Arceus, I have brought you a sacrifice.
With that out of my system, I went back to Mount Moon for one last time to finish the job. I had a Geodude appear, who obviously didn't learn his lesson. And finally, as seemed to be tradition for this area, after another insanely short 5-minute phase, we got our Paris. I was still really enjoying the ladder resets, so I decided to go and work on finishing off Rock Tunnel. My first goal was Rhyhorn, since I needed to find 2 of them. After only 25 minutes though, this happened.
Oh, whoa, that's crazy.
A raw shiny Kangaskhan out of nowhere was pretty insane, and meant I didn't have to bother with trying to build a catch combo of them later, which was nice as they have a pretty low catch rate. Not too long after that, I did find another Graveler, which was a little annoying.
I don't want you. Stay away from me.
And my day ended with this guy. A duplicate, but I was more than happy to have an extra one to turn into my flying buddy later. I took a day off on the 19th and knew I had to make some real progress the next day to make up for it. After an hour and a half, we started off with our first Rhyhorn, and 20 minutes later, we found what was our 5th shiny Charmander in this challenge, which is pretty crazy.
Tripped out. Nice on your wrists.
After another hour, we had a bit of an incident.
Oh my god.
However, it seemed like whenever we failed a shiny in this challenge, we were able to reclaim it right after.
Alright, that was quick. Cool.
This left just Onyx as our last shiny to find, who was pretty kind to us and showed up after only 40 more minutes of hunting. I was still enjoying knocking out these easy areas, so I returned to Viridian Forest to look for the 3 Weedle I still needed. This time around, I learned from Pikachu and decided to implement a new strategy. I'd build to a combo with 31 and then start leaving through the front door to reset the route. After seeing around 12 spawns, I'd leave and repeat. This didn't initially pay dividends as it took 2.5 hours to find our first mystery shiny.
Who is it? I'll take it.
I was able to finish the day with one last shiny, who I was pretty happy to see.
Yippee!
And with this jolly fellow found, I was content with my progress and closed my game for the day. I didn't realize it, but I had done something foolish. I never saved after catching our wormy friend here, and when I opened my game up next, I realized what I had done.
So I went to open my game, and I accidentally closed it, and lost my most recent shiny Weedle. And also my chain that I had. So that's a good start to the day.
I'm sorry, my little friend. You deserved better. My goal for the 23rd was simple. Reclaim the worm. It took another hour of grinding before we found our next shiny. And with one more worm to go, it only took 20 more minutes before we were finished with the forest.
We did it.
Hunting this way was much quicker than the catch combo I did for Pikachu, and we found all 3 shinies plus an extra run without any phases. While we did still need Bellsprout and later Oddish, there are many other routes we'll need to hunt on later that they can be found on, so I decided to move on. Now, it was at this point in the challenge that something terrible happened. Power World came out, and I played a lot of it. But when I finally came to my senses and started playing Pokemon again, I decided to continue with the trend of finishing off routes I'd been to before. However, this break from the game must have broken my brain, as I started with a crabby catch combo hunt on Route 13. This hunt reminded me why catch combos suck.
I can't do it. Oh, why is it going that way? Why can't I throw this one? He's trying to touch it.
It also made me realize that I was starting to have a money issue. Even though you can sell candies to make money from catch combos, hunting Pokemon with low or even middling catch rates was hard to profit off of. I'd need to throw more expensive balls, I'd miss more often, and would often need multiple Ultra Balls to catch just one Krabby. It wasn't sustainable. So after pushing through the rest of the hunt and about 9 hours of Krabby hunting overall.
Hey. Wait. There we go. Sweet.
I decided I needed to finish the main story. On the 2nd of February, I ran through Victory Road, defeated the Elite Four, and bested Shiny Pidgey. This unlocked a few things. Firstly, flying. Flying in this game comes with its own sets of positives and negatives. It unlocks the Sky area, which comes with a group of pointless encounters that will increase my chance at phasing on a Pidgey or something, but it does give me access to some rare encounters, like Dragonite, or even the legendary birds if I get unbelievably lucky. It also makes it easy to traverse many areas while hunting, particularly areas where I'm hunting for water spawns. While you're in the air, not only do the air and ground spawns appear, but the water spawns too, which doesn't happen when you're walking. Beating the game also gives me 2 big benefits money-wise. Firstly, it unlocks Cerulean Cave, which has a floor with a bunch of goodies that constantly respawn. You can get golden raspberries to make catch combos easier, you can sell the other berries for money, you can even find any type of Pokeball on the ground, including Master Balls, and I love free shit. Secondly, I can now grind repeatedly against the Elite Four. This is by far the most effective way to money grind in this game. especially if you have some Pokemon with payday like Eevee. However, Eevee can't solo the Elite Four by itself, which is why I decided to saddle up for the last painful catch combo hunt for a while, Meowth. Now, aside from getting access to stat payday, Persian is also the fastest grounded mount in the entire game. And now that I had fast air traversal, I figured it'd be best to get fast ground traversal too. So, even if the hunt was going to be tedious, I knew it would be worth it. But man, was it tedious. To get Meowth, we had to go back to Route 25, a route not exactly known for fast hunts. Like my other catch combo hunts, it started off alright, with a cool 3-hour grind for Meowth number 1 at a chain of 177. I called this guy Chimpao, because I knew I was about to pump him full of candies until he basically had the same BST as one. However, much like my other catch combo hunts, again, getting the second Meowth took some time. It took a chain of 746 until the second Meowth finally came home. And with this hunt done, I knew something in my plan had to change. While the "I'll be finished by March" mindset was dead and gone, I knew I still needed to change something fundamentally or else I wasn't going to be done anytime soon. I actually have a recording from this day called "Talking Must Include." I'm not going to include it, but I do say some things that were very relevant. 1. The time it was taking to finish some of these catch combo hunts was unacceptable. It was simply taking too long. Number 2. The repetitive motions from catch comboing was starting to give me wrist issues at work. Catch combos were literally starting to negatively impact my life. And number 3,
I need to really lock in. I'm gonna really lock in.
I've got to lock in. So I started cooking up a new hunting method that would revolutionize the way that I hunted in these games, and would significantly reduce the amount of cases in which catch combos were the optimal method. However, I needed a little bit of time to figure that all out. So, in the meantime, I decided it was time to start knocking out the rest of the easy areas in the game, starting with maybe my favorite, Route 7. This area only has a spawn cap of 4, but it has a big grass patch with lots of Pokemon diversity next to a gate, so there's heaps of reset potential. There's a wide range of interesting Pokemon to hunt here, and this is also one of the first routes we've hunted in that can have Rattata, which just so happens to be the first shiny we encountered here.
I have a feeling this won't be the last one we get. Or the second last one. Or the third.
I then proceeded to get insanely lucky and bink a shiny Dragonite 20 minutes later.
Cool. That's one less Dratini.
Now, this isn't as lucky as I thought initially, as Dragonite is encounterable pretty much anywhere there are sky encounters, so I probably would have found one later down the line anyway, but it still felt really cool to find. I then messed up big time and forgot to record my next shiny, our rare spawn for the route, Porygon. I hope this MS Paint recreation makes up for it.
Oh man, I hope there's a shiny out here or something like that.
Hey! My good luck continued that day with a shiny Raticate.
Oh my god, it's a dog.
Finishing that line, a shiny Jigglypuff, which I almost failed. Another shiny Raticate 6 minutes after, which I didn't need anymore. And then another shiny Jigglypuff, which I did fail after a 3-hour phase. Whoops. Despite some bad luck at the end of the day, the 6th was the most productive shiny day since the 1st of January at the start of the challenge, with 7 shinies found. The 8th started with me reclaiming my lost Jigglypuff, immediately finding another duplicate rat, and then my first Vulpix an hour and a half later. I then found my 3rd Pidgey of the challenge, meaning I had completed the line, and therefore any future Pidgeys would be wasted shinies. I ended the day off with a 2nd shiny Porygon, which I did manage to record. Going into the 9th, I only needed 1 more Vulpix and all 3 Abra. I was worried that I was going to start phasing a lot here, particularly with Porygon, since the first shiny of the day was a 3rd one of those. So, I devised a plan. Abra is a unique Pokemon in this game because it actually despawns if you walk in front of it. While this is intended to make the Pokemon harder to catch, I realized I could take advantage of this mechanic by forcing them to despawn, which was both quicker than leaving the area and coming back, and also meant that I was seeing slightly less Porygon, which I was sick of. This paid off quickly with my first shiny Abra in just half an hour. The Pokemon gods then reminded me of their cruelty with a 4th Porygon 5 minutes later.
It's like the game feels bad for me not getting the footage of the first one. And now it's like, hey, just take another one.
Remember when I put this thing as a first priority? After another hour and a half, the gods struck again, punishing me for my stunning innovation and creativity when I failed a shiny Abra by despawning it.
You've got to be kidding me.
I think they felt bad because right afterwards...
Oh my god. It's been a minute. A literal minute. Okay. He felt real bad for me.
I was determined to finish this line by the end of the day. And after 2 hours of hunting it normally this time...
Okay. Ooh, that scared the out of me. Yes!
This left just Vulpix. The game initially didn't want to give it to me, as I quickly found 2 duplicates, a rat
Yo, it's Vulpix.
and a bird.
I despise you. Have a nice trip wherever you're going. See ya.
But it gave in eventually.
Oh, I almost went back in. That looked like a pigeon.
Sorry, Vulpix, I didn't mean it. That marked the final Route 7 shiny, and I still had a whole afternoon to hunt, so I decided to try my hand at busting some ghosts. Very quickly, I was finding evidence of the paranormal, with a shiny Haunter, which was neat, and a Ghastly not too long after. Encounters in the Pokemon Tower were slow, but I'd been lucky so far, and it only took another 2.5 hours until our final ghost appeared. Another Haunter, which is pretty neat since it only has a 20% spawn rate. It was then time to move on to somewhere I thought would be another easy place to hunt at, the power plant. However, I came up dry on the 12th, and it wasn't until the 13th and 4.5 hours of hunting that I found my first shiny Coughing. An hour later, I got to throw a Great Ball at a Great Ball. Again, I found nothing on the 14th, and again, I found a shiny Coughing on the 15th, followed by the second shiny Voltorb, which left me just needing 2 Magnemites and an Electabuzz. The latter of which showed up after an hour of hunting on the 16th. I was making somewhat steady progress, but it was much slower than the 3 to 6 shinies a day I was hitting back on Route 7. I didn't play again until the 19th, which was also an uneventful day. Oh, except for this.
Ooh, that's good.
I knew I had many more opportunities to see Chansey though, so I didn't mind. Like on the next day, where I saw 2.
I do need it. I just don't want to break my chain because Magnemite's so annoying to catch. But I think I already failed one. I think I should just take this one.
I did need 1, so it wasn't a huge deal, but it now meant that any time I was hunting on a route with Chansey, I was going to be opening myself up for more shiny duplicates. Like on the 22nd, where I found, ding ding ding, you guessed it, a 4th Chansey in a row. Thankfully, I finally found the first of 2 Magnemite that I needed an hour and a half later. I only needed 1 more, and now since I had 1 magnet, maybe I'd be able to attract the other.
Wrong. Bye.
Hey, at least it wasn't Chan. After that, I took a break and spent some time with my family for my birthday. I did get some time to play on the 24th and actually had some decent luck finally. Firstly, I got the Magnemite I was after, which meant I could move on to Cycling Road. I decided to look for the hardest shiny first, Eevee, especially since I need 4 of them total. Things started off well with an Eevee. I then phased on the Pidgeotto, found the second Eevee, and ended the day with one of my favorite shinies in this game, a baby blue Psyduck. Once I got back home on the 27th, I knew it was time to return to the grind. But before I could even make it to Cycling Road...
What the f***? Why?
Hi.
I don't... You know what? Oh my god. That's my favorite shiny. Oh my god. can't wait to capture. Whoops.
The first shiny to flee from me in this game was a Chansey. Felt like the game was laughing in my face a bit here. This didn't stop me from being productive though. I went straight to Cycling Road to start chaining Eevee again, and before I even hit a chain of 31, our third Eevee appeared, which meant I only needed one more. After a 2.5 hour drought of finding nothing, one of the shiny lines I was most concerned about coming into this challenge was done. And I was able to evolve them all into some of the other coolest shinies in the game. And Flareon. We still had some work to do on Cycling Road though, and I got right back to it with a shiny Doduo, a shiny Rattata phase 10 minutes later.
Boo. Boo. Yeah, get out of here, dude. Get out of here, stupid rat. Yeah, you stupid rat. Get out of here.
And in the last hour of the day, the last Psyduck I needed, and the last Doduo too. This meant my goal for the last day of the month was going to be finding the 2 hot horses I needed. The first Fiery Fall came after just 12 minutes at a catch combo of 2, and the second Pyro Pony followed just over an hour after. This meant I was done with Cycling Road and had cleared out all of the easy routes I wanted to grind out before the next phase of the challenge, shiny hunting the fossils. Now, I'm going to show you a clip here of me talking about my plans for this hunt, because something really funny is about to happen.
For my first soft reset hunt, it'll be a pretty easy soft reset hunt.
I think anyone who has hunted the fossils in this game knows where this is going. As I mentioned in the planning phase, one of the biggest reasons I wanted to immediately get the shiny charm in this game is because it makes the soft reset hunts, which are easily the longest individual hunts in the game, significantly more tolerable, decreasing 1 in 4,096 odds down to just 1 in 1,365 odds. Now, for the 4 legendaries, this is the case. These hunts will have reduced odds and are much easier with the charm. However, there is a fun quirk with the shiny charm in this game. It only works on encounters and does not boost the odds of gift Pokemon. Unfortunately for me, these funny guys are all considered gift Pokemon, so they're stuck with the abysmal 1 in 4,096 odds, which means they're gonna take forever. And I have to hunt 5 of them. Sweet. Now, at this point, I still had a goal of finishing the challenge and getting a video out by April. And it was here that I truly realized there was no shot of this happening. So, how does this hunt work? As far as soft reset hunts go, it's pretty unique. Firstly, you need to acquire the fossils. You get a free one during the main story, either a Blix or Dome fossil, and you get an old Amber in Pewter City after you gain access to Cut, much like the other mainline Kanto games. However, in this game, they are also able to be obtained renewably in 2 spots in Cerulean Cave. First is this middle crystal, which has a 50% chance of spawning a max revive and a 50% chance of spawning a fossil. The second is this floor spot on the Mewtwo floor. This spot spawns an item once per day and is guaranteed to have one of the 3 fossils in it. The best way to farm these fossils is by date skipping, which in this game you do by going online, searching for a trade, and then going into your Switch settings and going forwards a day. However, when I started this challenge, I made the decision to not allow any exploits, and while I don't think the date skipping would affect the overall challenge that much, I still didn't allow myself to do it. This meant the only way for me to get the fossils was by checking both spots once a day, which meant it took time to build up my fossil reserves, and I was gonna want a lot of them. The hunt itself works like this. You go to the Pokemon lab on Cinnabar Island, you go into the 3rd room and talk to this guy standing by this weird machine. You give him a fossil, he says, "Wow, thanks, watch what I can do," and he creates living sentient life right before your eyes as if it was nothing. Now, because in this game you don't need a free slot in your party to revive a fossil, you can revive as many as you want in one reset. It takes around 20 seconds to revive a fossil, around 40 seconds to soft reset, and also around 10 seconds to go into your box and double check all the fossils you revived each reset, which I was doing just because I really did not want to miss a shiny and reset over it. If you had 1 fossil, you'd be seeing around 51 fossils per hour. If you were to bump that up to 5 fossils per reset, you'd be seeing 120 fossils per hour, a huge improvement. Now, this does start to have diminishing returns, which I think is easiest to visualize by graphing this function, where X equals the number of fossils per reset and Y equals the number of fossils seen per hour.
we can see that at 5 fossils, we see 120 per hour. At 10, we see 144 per hour, and at 20, we see 160 per hour. However, this is our turning point. From here, increasing our fossils per reset starts to have diminishing returns as our graph trends towards 180 seen per hour. Any extra fossils definitely will still help, but in my opinion, there is barely any point in having more than 40 fossils. So if you're taking this hunt on yourself, I think that anywhere between 20 to 40 fossils is a good spot to be. For Omanite, I had 15, and therefore was hitting around 154 fossils seen an hour. I actually went into this hunt without realizing that the shiny charm wasn't going to be helping me. It wasn't until I was getting to around 3,000 fossils, over twice the shiny odds I was expecting, that I started to question whether my odds were truly 1 in 1,365. And oh man, the despair I felt on the 12th of March, almost 2 weeks into starting the hunt, when I realized the truth. I wasn't even close to being at odds yet. I had to do this hunt 4 more times. I was spending full days making what was starting to feel like minimal progress. But I didn't give up. What are a few weeks added onto this challenge anyway? I only need to make it through 2 of these hunts right now, and I already have all the fossils I need. Oh, wait, did I just save over my fossils instead of resetting? Huh. That sucks. With all the Omanite fossils I had saved up over the past month gone, I reluctantly continued the hunt, but this time for Kabuto. But it didn't come easy. It took the next week and a half and over 4,000 more encounters before it finally shined.
Yes!
I hate this guy.
After a total of 7,762 fossils restored, the 23rd of March, I finally had just 1 of the 5 fossils I needed. I have over 70 hours of footage from this hunt, and that doesn't include any time spent hunting while in bed or while watching TV in my living room. 80 plus hours for 1 shiny is insane in a challenge like this, and this hunt really took it out of me. It was hard to remain motivated when I knew it was so unlikely I was going to make any progress. This was definitely the lowest point of the challenge for me. I decided I was going to have to save the rest of the fossil hunting for the end of the challenge and focus on the easier stuff for now, both because I needed time to rebuild my fossil reserves and because I desperately needed to feel like I was making progress again. Luckily for me, I had been cooking something up for the sole purpose of making mad progress. Now, the reason some of the hunts I was doing were catch combos, despite the fact that they were slow and kind of hurt my wrists, is because it felt like the only other option was standing in one spot and waiting hours. There's no ladder or doorway on Route 4, for example, so it ends up being optimal to throw hundreds of balls at Ekans because you can't quickly reset the spawns. Until now. We all know how great lures are in this game, but have you ever used a repel? Obviously, because spawns are overworld in this game and not random encounters, repels work differently. Using a repel will instantly despawn everything and prevent any further spawns until it runs out. By going into your bag, using a repel, and then instantly using a lure without closing the bag, you will despawn all the encounters, and then once your bag is closed, the lure will take effect and all new spawns will be at 1 in 1,024 shiny odds. You can repel reset in exactly 7 seconds, the same amount of time as a ladder reset, and a second faster than leaving and re-entering a route through a doorway. So you can hunt at Rock Tunnel or Route 7 speeds at any area in the map. The viability of a hunt relies now mostly on the spawn cap for the route, rather than the route's layout, which is huge, and opens up essentially every Pokemon in the game to a faster hunting method than catch combos, with a couple exceptions we'll talk about when we start hunting them. Now, it's not like this is a fully original thought or anything. There are game forums and Reddit posts discussing this as an option, but I couldn't find anyone using this or even considering it as an option. Primarily because it is a little expensive. Each reset basically costs 800 Pokédollars, and you're going to be burning through repels and lures very quickly. That's this method's obvious drawback. However, this works perfectly for me. I am already money grinding in the mornings and night when I don't have time to record for a hunt, which gives me time to make the money I need to spam repels during the day. This method revolutionized the rest of the challenge and saved me both heaps of time and sanity. While I just spent all that time gassing up this method, I didn't actually use it right away. Right after finding the Kabuto, I set my sights on the first water route of the challenge, Route 19. This was mainly because I figured it was a route I'd get a lot of mileage out of Repel resetting at, but for my first phase, I decided to force respawn the rare spawn for this route, Lapras. This culminated with a 7-hour phase spanning 2 days, me finding a rock-type Lapras.
He's stuck in a rock.
What, Lapras?
I've never seen this. He's stuck in a rock.
What the hell?
Free my mans. Free.
Oh my god, he's gone.
He died.
And ending on the least exciting shiny possible.
Oh, finally. Oh my god. And it's like the worst thing I could find too.
Now, the next shiny I did use Repel Resets on, a Staryu on the 25th. And the next day, I found my first Tentacool, though this was admittedly a slower phase. Now, while these 3 shinies didn't come as fast as I'd hoped, I knew I was due for something great. Huh? No. Please, I thought I was past this. God, I am here to repent. Loser's life was not mine to take. I'm sorry. This was probably the worst I felt about a duplicate shiny. Back to the water, I found one of the coolest shinies of the challenge with a shiny Tentacruel on the 27th, and had to endure another slower phase for my second shiny Staryu on the 29th. I promise the Repel resets eventually do numbers. But first, I took another few days off of hunting over Easter, which gave me plenty of time to money grind. With money no longer being a concern for the near future, I knew I could go all in on Repel resets when I needed to. All I needed from the water was a Magikarp and a Lapras, so I decided to go back to force respawning Lapras since I knew a Magikarp could appear at basically any time. Like now. This just left Lapras. Now, this hunt took a while, mainly because Lapras have a funny habit of booking it as soon as they spawn. On the second, I unfortunately phased on a Magikarp, and it took all the way until the 5th until Lapras finally shined.
Ooh. Oh, it's so pretty.
This was a long hunt, but this shiny is so cool that it makes it worth it. Now, with this water route done, there were many different things I could do next. There were still a couple hunts that it was inevitable that I'd have to catch combo for, and Dratini was one of them. It appears in the water on Route 10, which has a water spawn cap of 5, which sounds decent, but the minimal surface area kills the spawn rate. What further hurts this area is Dratini's pitiful 4% spawn rate. This makes for not just slow Repel resets, but also slow catch combos too. This was definitely one of the hunts I was most worried about going into this challenge. Here's a little backstory. Back in 2022, I got COVID, which meant I had to stay at home for a week. With my newly found free time, I decided to complete the Let's Go Eevee Pokédex, a normal one, not this abomination of a challenge, and I wanted a full team of shiny Pokemon to beat the game with. One of these was a shiny Dragonite, so off I went to Route 10, where I spent 4 consecutive days building a chain of over 1,200 before I got one Dratini. This hunt was more physically painful than having COVID was. I have to do this 2 times. Needless to say, thinking about this hunt gave me some unpleasant memories, but I had some motivation right now, so I flew over to Route 10, hopped on my surfboard, and began chaining. After a long, draining, arduous chain of 42, it shined.
Oh, whoa. Thank goodness.
This felt good, but it wasn't over. It had taken an hour and a half to get to a chain of 42, and basically all of my previous catch combos had started this way. Fast first shiny, dreadfully long second shiny. But Dratini was different.
Oh my god. That... it's over.
I spent at most 3 hours between both Dratini, and since I found a Dragonite earlier in the challenge, I was done for good here. I had been worried for nothing. So I felt good enough to go right into the last catch combo hunt for Let's Go Eevee, Goldeen. I didn't realize it at the time, but this hunt is similar in difficulty or potentially even harder than Dratini. Goldeen can only be found in one place in the entire game, this little baby pond on Route 6. The water spawn cap here is only 3, so while Goldeen appears 45% of the time and therefore should be easy to start a chain on, the frequency of spawns here is low. This hunt was an endeavor. I don't know what Goldeen's problem is, but they were so hard to catch. The first Goldeen wasn't too bad and showed up on the 7th after a catch combo of 315, which is very reasonable, but Goldeen number 2 was not so reasonable. Firstly, on the 8th, she had a Magikarp show up in her place.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me. How could you do this to me? What's wrong with you?
Then, her refusal to show up made me take a relatively long break from hunting. So, when I returned on the 14th, she sent her secret agent Magikarp to confuse me.
Oh my god. I just f***ed up so bad. No! Oh, I knew this would happen.
This made me lose a chain of 799. On that same day, just an hour and a half later, she did her worst crime yet.
Why?
She sent the rat.
Oh, this guy.
This hurt, but it didn't stop me. She must have known I was getting close, because the Goldeen were enhancing their evasion capabilities and techniques. Until finally, after a first broken chain of 799 and a second chain of 400, she knew she had lost.
Thank God. This hunt made up for Dratini in the sense that it sucked.
Now that all the catch combos were done, I could finally have fun hunting again. To take advantage of this, I went to one of the areas I was most excited for, Route 23. This area has a lot of encounter diversity, the most of any remaining area. Between the ground, sky, and water, there were 12 shinies I needed here. This specific spot on the route is maybe the most fun spot to shiny hunt at in this game, aside from maybe Viridian Forest, with 8 ground spawns and 3 water spawns to work with. The wide open spaces do normally hold this route back, since there's no doorway or anything to take advantage of, but with Repel Resets, we can really crank out some shinies. I started modestly, finishing off the 16th with a shiny Spearow. It was a bit of a shame that it was my first shiny here, since it meant I was open to phasing a lot. Combined, Spearow and Fearow take up 25% of the ground spawns, assuming I don't have a chain, and they take up 100% of the non-rare sky spawns. This means each Repel Reset, I'm seeing like 4 to 5 Spearow. Unfortunately, my phasing fears came true. The next afternoon, another shiny Spearow appeared. I was getting nervous. Maybe this area was going to be a flop. What happened next put all my fears to rest. I had managed to complete the entire Poliwag and Egg lines, find 3 back-to-back Nidorina, and my first Nidoran male, as well as some extra birds over just a few days. While it might not seem like much for 5 days, I was only able to play for a max of 2 hours each day. So within these 10 hours, I'd found 12 shinies. Compare that to January 1st, for example, my most productive day, where I'd gotten 8 shinies in about 8 hours. You can see that these hunts were actually my most productive yet. The hunt also got faster once I finished the Poliwag line, since I no longer needed to spend 10 seconds or so each reset checking the water. And it's also worth noting that the 3rd consecutive Nidorina is a redundant one, a fun quirk of the Living Dex challenge. Only needing 3 more shinies, I decided to build up a chain of 31 Nidoran male, meaning I was also going to be seeing the rare spawns for this route. While my shiny luck was at a high, unfortunately my playing time was at a low. This didn't stop me, however, as on the 28th I found another Fearow, and then on the 29th, another Spearow. Pointless shinies, but shinies nonetheless. On the 30th, I got my 2nd Nidoran male and some duplicate eggs.
Oh.
My May started off with me finding the rare aerial spawn I hadn't found in the wild yet.
Oh. Boo. He looks so cool though. Hi, Charizard. Oh no, oh my controller's low battery. Oh damn it, it malfunctioned. What? Oh no. Oh, I guess I have to keep hunting the Nidoran I need.
Sorry if me not catching it upset some people, but I just didn't need it. The Nidoran chain was more valuable to me. Turns out, I didn't actually need the chain though, since a Nidorino popped up not too long after. My day ended with an obligatory Fearow, with us only needing a Nidoran female before we could leave. And on the 3rd of May, that finally happened.
I think with this, I'm able to move on.
This route was definitely my favorite area in the whole game to hunt. It was a proof of concept for Repel Resets and had some cool shinies, even if I did phase a total of 10 times. There weren't many more areas I needed to clear out left, so I started the 5th off by hunting Horsey on Route 13. This hunt just involved getting to a chain of 31 and then Repel resetting. Both Horsey came within about 4.5 hours, which is not too bad. I took a break from the water spawns to clear out the ground spawns in the Seafoam Islands. Now, this area is a little infamous for 2 of the shinies, Slowpoke and Seal. Both shinies are very similar to their normal counterparts, and this cave has this faint mist which makes everything look paler, and these little sparkly effects which, at a glance, look like shiny sparkles. It's very easy to get faked out in this area. The first shiny I found here was, unfortunately, a Zubat on the 5th.
Oh. At least it was easy to see.
On the 7th, I got my first Slowpoke, and look at this. He looks identical to a normal Slowpoke. The shiny sparkles were a good enough indicator, but the color is so similar that it meant I was having to analyze every single Slowpoke I saw until I was confident they weren't shiny. Seal shiny is probably the more notorious of the 2, but when I found my first one on the 9th, I actually noticed it straight away. Just to test it wasn't a fluke, the game gave me another one not 2 minutes later to check if I could actually tell the difference.
Went up the stairs, went down the stairs, went up the stairs, came back down the stairs, and we got another seal. That might be my quickest shiny now.
Pretty insane. The next time I played wasn't until the 14th, which started off with another Zubat, boring, a 3rd shiny Seal, and then a very noticeable shiny Slowbro. This left just Jinx to find. I found another Zubat on the 15th, and then another Slowpoke on the 16th.
You don't matter, you stupid Slowpoke. Sorry, that was mean. That was not nice.
And then my hunt for Jinx finally came to an end. Next up, I wanted to clear out Diglett's cave, home to many different species, such as Diglett, Diglett, Dugtrio, Diglett, and Chansey. This hunt actually required a bit of a learning curve. Diglett Cave has 8 ground spawns, which in theory sounds awesome. However, this cave is massive, which I think made the spawn rate slow down unless you're moving around. I started my first phase just hunting at the ladder, but the spawns were super slow and it took 5.5 hours to find my first Diglett. So on the 17th, I decided to experiment with covering more ground. I'd run to the middle of the cave, see a few spawns on the way there, about 4 to 5 spawns after a few seconds standing there, and then maybe 1 or 2 fresh spawns on the way back, which was much more efficient. After maybe an hour of hunting this way, I found my second Diglett. I then set my sights on Victory Road to hunt both Hitmon guys, who are both rare spawns. They're a bit of a notable hunt too, since they spawn on different floors. You go up the ladder and see Hitmonchan, and then go down the ladder and wait for Hitmonlee. Hitmonchan was a super fast find, taking just 40 minutes. Hitmonlee was a bit of a slower hunt, taking until the 18th to find. Quick side note, what is this? Why does no one talk about how terrifying this thing is? I do not like this guy. I then went back to Seafoam Islands to find the last water shiny of this whole challenge, Shelter. Shelter is normally a pretty tedious hunt, only appearing in this little pool area where you basically have two options. Catch combo him, or painstakingly get off your surfboard, go up the ladder, go back down the ladder, then get back on your surfboard to spawn more encounters. I, of course, used the secret third option, Repel Resets. Shelter number 1 came after 2.5 hours, and shelter number 2 came shortly after.
Nice.
The number of remaining shinies was starting to dwindle, so I went for Tangela next, as there was also a chance I'd find a shiny of the Bellsprout line, which I still needed. Tangela was a pain to chain, even just to a combo of 31. The first shiny here came on the 20th, which was the dreaded Chansey.
I don't want you. I'm repelling over it.
This was a sad reminder that every single remaining area I had to hunt in on Eevee had Chansey as their rare spawn, or even as a regular spawn. Surely all my bad Chansey luck was out the way, right? Right? You already know I found way more. Chansey wasn't the only thing competing for my affection though. I faced on a Weeping Bell next, which I needed. But then on the 22nd, that stupid rat showed up again.
No! Why are you doing this to me? Ooh. I can't like this guy actually. You stupid rat.
Followed by, you guessed it, wow, you're really good at this, another Chansey.
That feels so bad.
Tangela finally showed up on the 24th. That hunt was much tougher than I was expecting, but once I caught him, I moved right into the Pokemon Mansion. This was an area that I only needed one Pokemon in, Magmar. I'd welcome a shiny Ditto too, but I can get that easier in Cerulean Cave. But you already know what happens when I only need one shiny. I find all the guys I don't need. It started with a Chansey.
Can you stop?
And then it was a Coughing.
Wrong guy.
On the 26th, I encountered this fat rat, and then 20 minutes later, his stupid son showed up.
This is so cruel.
They were taunting me, I just knew it. Look at all these Magmar that could have been shiny. My suffering finally paid off, as it always does, on the 27th, when Magmar. I could finally leave the mansion. Finding more phases was always going to be a reality of reaching the end of a challenge like this, but the rate of duplicates really started to come to a head on my next hunt. I went to Route 11 next for Drowsy and Mr. Mime, and admittedly got kinda lucky with a Drowsy on the 28th.
Drowsy. He's so ugly.
In hindsight, insulting this guy was a mistake, cause he had backup.
Ew. It's always Rattata surrounded by like 50 of the target I'm going for. I hate when it's 3-hour phases and it's you. Why? For what purpose? For what purpose?
Also, it turns out my prediction of Pidgey being the most common shiny would become a possibility. Not because of Sky Spawns, but because of moments like this.
Why? I just want a creepy dude. Why couldn't it have been any of these guys? Oh my god. Why? Why? I don't. What is going on? Maybe Shiny Pidgey is my enemy. Oh my god. Please, I just. It's because I insulted the first Drowsy I found. Maybe if I was like, oh my god, I love Drowsy, I love Drowsy. Oh, he's so cute. Look at his little nose.
Once I had finally recognized the error of my ways in being mean to that first Drowsy, they finally forgave me.
Finally, my god. I thought Pinsir was going to be the painful one, not Drowsy.
This just left the Mime. On the 31st, I had an obligatory bird show up in the same spot as the last one. But on the 1st of June, I decided I was going to start my month off with a statement. I was going to find the mime, and I was going to do it fast, and I was going to find even more shinies. Not you.
Where were you? Like 2 days ago.
Or you.
Oh, okay.
I had never been so happy to see a Mr. Mime, and I wasn't done finding shinies on the 1st. Now at this point, I had 2 main hunts in front of me before I moved on to the Let's Go Pikachu exclusives, Pinsir and Snorlax. There were other shinies I needed, but these were the 2 I was most nervous about because I felt like I had a real chance of failing them, and Pinsir specifically was bound to be a difficult hunt. It doesn't just have a low catch rate, but it's a 1% spawn, meaning starting a chain of 31 is difficult, and failing a chain or even a shiny is extremely punishing. While I had spent heaps of time every day in Cerulean Cave looking for a Master Ball, I still only had the one from the main story, but I was prepared to use it if I needed it. And what happened next was pretty crazy.
Oh my god, okay. I got bailed out big time. 46 minutes. I didn't even get to a chain of 31.
The odds of this blue beetle being shiny were 1 in 372, which was super lucky. This was a big relief. I still had Scyther to hunt in, Pikachu later, but Pinsir was a hunt that could have spiraled out of control had it not come so fast or been harder to catch. I used the motivation from this to work on knocking out the rest of the route. While targeting Tauros, I found a shiny Bellsprout, and then half an hour later, a shiny Weeping Bell.
Alright, well that's this entire line done. Which is a little concerning, because I think that means we're going to get some duplicates of this line. Why'd that happen?
I continued hunting again on the 5th and got Tauros early that morning. This wasn't too bad of a hunt, though Tauros's Hurtbox shifting made it tricky to easily reach that chain of 31 that I needed. With 2 Venonat being all that was left, Chansey instead reared its ugly head, face, body, whatever next. Followed, an hour later, by a duplicate Bellsprout.
Ew.
Finally, 20 minutes later, I got my first Venonat. What happened next was probably the single most insane thing that happened during this entire challenge. The only thing I can say to set this up is that this was literally the next thing that happened after finding Venonat.
What? Why? What the fuck? I clicked record and I walk out. I don't know what to do. I just found Venonat. This is like the next spawn after Venonat. I got Venonat, I took a little break, I came back, I hit record, and then he's there. Why? What do I do?
Yeah, another Pinsir. A less than 1% shiny. The odds of that spawn specifically being a shiny Pinsir is about 1 in 409,600. I'm not kidding. The odds of a shiny is 1 in 1,024 with shiny Charmanlua, as we know. The odds of Pinsir spawning normally is 1 in 100 or 1%. However, I have a chain of 31 Venonat active, which means 2 things. Each time a Pokemon spawns, there's a 50% chance that it'll be Venonat before it even factors into the normal encounter pool. Then, the game goes through another 50% check to see if it'll be a rare spawn Chansey, since there isn't already a Chansey spawned. So, this spawn had to go through a 1 in 2 check to not be a Venonat, a 1 in 2 check to not be a Chansey, and then it defaulted into the normal spawn pool for the route where it has a 1 in 100 chance to be Pinsir. This means it has a half times 1 in 100 chance to be a Pinsir, or 1 in 400. And then a 1 in 1,024 chance to be shiny. So yeah, a 1 in 409,600 chance for that spawn to be a shiny Pinsir. Insane. This is all based on my understanding of how the catch combo and rare spawn mechanics interact with the normal spawn rate, so my numbers could be a little off, but regardless, it's still an unbelievably rare find. But it is a dupe, so I let it despawn. After that anomaly, I was able to clean up the rest of the route, firstly with a government drone on the 6th, and then my final Venonat on the 10th. This left one last area before I had to move on to Let's Go Pikachu, Cerulean Cave. The first priority here was Snorlax. Not needing my Master Ball for Pinsir meant I didn't have to worry about catching Snorlax despite its low 25 catch rate, the lowest of any non-legendary Pokemon in this game. But when I eventually found it on the 15th, I was able to catch it in an Ultra Ball without much issue. The boosts from Golden Raspberries and the partner controls are so strong that shiny Pokemon fleeing was never a real concern in this challenge despite my worries coming into it. The plan from here was to finish up Cerulean Cave quickly and then smash out the Pikachu version exclusives. While on the 16th I made good progress, finding Lickitung and then a duplicate Rhydon, this didn't last long. You may have noticed the gaps in between shinies were getting longer and longer. To be honest, almost 6 months into this challenge, I was getting tired of it. Shiny hunting in this game is fun, don't get me wrong, but it had been a central focus of my life for half the year, and it was getting tricky to commit some time to this game every day without it feeling like a burden. I got pretty sick on the 18th, and took it as a sign to take a break from the game and hope to come back stronger. I didn't play Pokemon again until the 26th, which meant I had 10 days of no progress, the biggest break of the challenge. Kind of. But I made sure my return to the game was as productive as possible. My first shiny back was a duplicate Golbat. Dang. And just an hour later, our blue Ditto showed up.
There he is. He's so blue. Oh my god.
This meant we were not only done with Cerulean Cave, but every non-soft reset shiny in Pokemon Eevee. So it was time to boot up the Let's Go Pikachu save file I made on the first day of the challenge. Before I could get into hunting, I still needed to get the shiny charm on this file. I transferred over all the version exclusives, trade evolutions, and Kabutops I needed, as well as a few extra friends to make sure I had some semblance of a team in case I needed it. It only took an hour before we had a completed Pokedex.
And now we can hunt in this game as well.
For my first hunt in this game, I decided on catch comboing Sandshrew to make some easy cash as I had very few resources in this game. Thankfully, Sandshrew was extremely kind to me.
Sandshrew 1. That was quick.
Sandshrew 1 came at a chain of just 67, with the second one coming at a chain of 151, meaning I'd found the two I needed in just 2 hours. I hoped to continue the lucky streak by going to Route 4 to hunt for Growlithe, and it paid off as I ended the day with my first Growlithe. The next phase was a longer one, which I didn't mind, especially since it ended with the second Growlithe on the 27th. I then returned to the mansion in pursuit of Grimer, the first of which showed up after just 30 minutes.
Dude, this Pokemon Mansion song is driving me insane. It's my last hunt in here, and thank God. What was that? Why can't I throw straight?
Unfortunately, the next 2-hour phase ended with a rat.
Gross.
But I was able to finish up with the mansion for good this time when Grimer number 2 appeared on the 29th. I decided it was then time to tackle the final catch combo of the entire challenge, Mankey. Sandshrew had been kind to me and I was just praying that the monkey would be too, but the game wasn't going to let me finish my last catch combo hunt without a fight. I spent the next couple days building up a chain, which finally led to a shiny Mankey and a chain of 512 who booked it as soon as he spawned. The next notable moment wasn't actually a shiny, but something rarer.
Oh, wait. There's an Articuno. Can I see it? Wow.
The legendary birds in this game are interesting. Of course, they appear as static encounters, which are a one-time thing, but in the post-game, they also appear very rarely in the sky. Their spawn mechanics are super unique and were documented in this awesome thread by Anubis. So you know how I said there were 2 types of spawns in this game, regular and rare? There's actually a secret third type, legendary. When a Pokemon spawns in the sky, it undergoes the same catch combo and rare spawn checks we talked about earlier with the Pinsir. But it then undergoes a final check, a 1 in 2000 roll for the spawn to be legendary, which overrides the results of the other checks if it hits. Having a lure popped gives you 2 rolls of 1 in 2000, which still makes them super rare. I'm surprised this is the first one I saw the whole challenge, or at least it was the first one I noticed. Thankfully, it wasn't shiny as I didn't have anything in my team I could fly on to battle it. It would have sucked so bad if it was. I ended the day, unfortunately, not with a Mankey, but a Charmander.
Oh my god. Really? Come on, man.
which meant I was bound to hit a chain of 1,000 for the first time this challenge. And on the second, it happened. This game doesn't actually track a combo any higher than 999, which is weird to me. It's as if they never expected anyone to hit a chain of over 1,000 without finding a shiny. It wasn't until my chain hit 1,110 that finally...
Oh my god. He's here. It's been so long. But 15 hours for 2 shinies is way longer than I was anticipating. I think the actual best way to know what your catch combo is to look at your number caught. So I had 2 Mankey caught from my original playthrough on this save file, which means this is a chain of 1,110 for 2 shiny Mankey.
My final catch combo hunt was over. I never have to combo in this game ever again. This, however, meant that it was time for Scyther, a hunt I was nervous for. Pinsir had bailed me out, but Scyther had every opportunity to cause major problems for me. Reaching a chain of 31 was slow, took around 50 minutes, and the hunt didn't get off to a promising start.
I thought I left this chapter of my life behind.
However, just 6 minutes into starting my recording on the 4th, it happened. It's kind of funny that all of the hunts I was worried about coming into this challenge were actually pretty easy. Pinsir, Scyther, Snorlax, and even like Porygon and the starters I thought would be a grind, while the stuff I thought would be easy like catch combos and the fossils were the painful ones. This just left 3 oddish to find, and this, luckily, brings me right back to where we started, Viridian Forest. The first shiny came pretty quickly.
Oh, shiny Oddish. Oddish 1.
On the 5th, only a shiny Pidgey stood between me and Oddish number 2, who shined 2 hours later.
Go. Number 2.
However, this last Oddish did not want to shine. 20 minutes after the second Oddish, this happened.
Wait, what? What the fuck?
I then had another Pidgey shine.
Oh. Lame. See ya.
Pidgey was really trying to squeeze in a few last minute phases here. I even found a shiny Bulbasaur, the first thing I ever hunted in this challenge, like it was nothing.
Why?
But after one final hour of hunting, she appeared. I was done with Let's Go Pikachu. It was time to transfer everything back over to Let's Go Eevee, evolve everything that still needed evolving, except you, and begin preparing for the soft reset hunts, which turned out to be, without a doubt, the hardest hunts in this challenge. I returned to the dreaded Pokemon lab on the 15th to work on Omanyte for the second time. This time, I was more prepared, restoring 23 fossils each reset and making certain that I wasn't ever going to save over my fossils again. This hunt was a totally different story to the first one and lasted just 3 days. After 573 fossils restored and 12 hours and 42 minutes of hunting, we got our first Omanyte.
Oh my god, okay. Yeah, I don't hate you.
I was feeling great. The speed of this hunt felt like it almost made up for that horrible first fossil hunt. The one downside here was that I only had 2 Helix fossils remaining, so I decided to work on Zapdos to give me time to build up more fossils. Any optimism I had after Kabuto, Zapdos made sure to clearly crush. This was arguably a more mentally draining hunt than Kabuto. Each reset of the legendaries in this game takes about 45 seconds at 1 in 1,365 odds. The increased shiny odds does still make it faster than the fossils, but not by as much as I'd hoped. This wasn't a worry for me going into this as long as my phases weren't absurdly long, but after the first 1,365 soft resets came, and then the next 1,365 soft resets came, I was starting to lose it. Zapdos isn't known for having the most distinct shiny, and I was starting to lose confidence that I'd even noticed a shiny Zapdos when it appeared, so I started delaying my resets until I was sure the shiny animation hadn't played, which made things take longer. I started pulling up multiple pictures of shiny Zapdos to hunt side by side with to make sure I could tell the difference between a shiny and a normal one. I started to encounter normal Zapdos and be convinced they were shiny until the lack of a shiny spark was confirmed they weren't. Eventually, this hunt broke me.
Every fucking Zapdos looks shiny. Everyone, I'm going crazy. I'm going crazy. They're all shiny. And none of them shine. That's shiny. How is that not shiny? What?
After almost a month of hunting, after 3,252 encounters,
Finally.
for what it's worth, I noticed the shiny instantly. I didn't need to be worried about it. This was 61 hours and 57 minutes of straight torture, but it was over. Let's quickly just talk about the legendary bird fights for a sec, because you may have noticed that I killed the Zapdos without hesitation. In this game, the legendaries have a battle phase and then a capture phase. You need to knock out the legendary in 5 minutes to be given a chance to capture it. Be warned, this timer goes down when you're in a menu or even if you go to the home screen, so you have to finish this battle as soon as possible. Once you're in the capture phase, you can take as long as you want. The legendaries in this game cannot flee, so the only way to fail them is to run out of balls, which wasn't going to happen here. I took the time to catch Zapdos in a Premier Bowl since they're the nicest looking bowl in this game. Despite Zapdos taking a month, I still wanted some more time to farm up my Helix fossil count, so I took on Moltres next in the hopes that it would come in a more reasonable time frame. It didn't. It wasn't as bad as Zapdos, and Moltres and I did share a bit of a special connection. So I wasn't too upset when it finally showed up on the 1st of September.
Oh, thank God.
In fact, I was pretty excited.
Sorry.
2,298 encounters on its own isn't too ridiculous, but right after I spent 61 hours on Zapdos, I would have liked Moltres to come a little sooner than in the 37 hours and 2 minutes it showed up in. Once I had Moltres caught, I was ready to return to the fossils. I knew that by leaving the soft reset hunts until the end of the game, I was putting myself in a situation where I had no easy hunts left, so I just had to strap in and take whatever the game gave me. Unfortunately, the game didn't want to give me a fast hunt just yet. I knew that once I returned to the lab, I wasn't leaving until I had the last 3 fossils I needed, so I got to work. It took 36 hours and 21 minutes over the next 10 days for my second shiny Omanyte to appear.
Oh my God.
Oh my god!
I was hoping for an under odds hunt, and this technically was, as it took just 3,894 revives, but this meant Omanyte was done. I only had 2 more, and surely if these last 3 hunts took almost 2 months to do, this next hunt would be done soon. Kabuto, once again, was not kind to me. I really pushed myself with this hunt, as I did not want a repeat of the first Kabuto. I was hunting almost every day for hours at a time. On the 23rd, I clocked a 10-hour day of just reviving fossils, and mind you, I'm working 5 to 6 days a week on top of this hunt. So it was fitting that when it finally arrived on the 29th, I was so sick that I barely even had a reaction to it being shiny.
These fossils hate me.
The second Kabuto took 5,659 revives and 47 hours and 28 minutes of my life. Kabuto was my biggest op this challenge. Even above the stupid birds and rodents and pink blobs I kept phasing on, I came out of this challenge having a new perspective on Kabuto, and not a good one. I like Kabutops' shiny though. This left just Aerodactyl. I could only hope and pray that this would be the fast hunt I was craving for. And while it certainly wasn't fast, it never got as bad as Kabuto did. After a week of hunting, 3,238 revives, 29 hours and 57 minutes on this hunt, and 206 collective hours in this lab, it was over.
Oh, that was it. Okay. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Yeah.
I am never entering this laboratory ever again. With the end of the challenge in sight, I returned to the Seafoam Islands to search for my favorite of the bird trio last, Articuno. With the pain of the fossils behind me, Articuno graced me with a reasonable hunt. On the 10th of October, after 13.5 hours and just 871 soft resets.
Oh my fucking god. Oh my, okay.
I was done with the legendary bird trio and had just one last hunt to face. I didn't tackle Mewtwo right away, or even that soon after I found Articuno. I instead focused my efforts into bringing this video and entire challenge to life. I had time to reflect on this challenge that had encompassed my entire year. I came into this video saying that I was done with shiny hunting. It wasn't fun for me anymore and I was leaving this part of the games behind, but after ramming my head into the brick wall that is the Let's Go games for hundreds of hours,
Baby boy.
I think I've gained a new appreciation for the art of shiny hunting.
Hey!
I've never done a project of this scale in my entire life,
Oh,
and
it's so pretty.
even though it was just me playing a game for hundreds of hours, it still feels incredibly rewarding, and
Oh my god.
I think that's the joy of shiny hunting. Everyone does it in their own ways, and you can take genuine pride in the result, whether it's a single special shiny or a collection like a Living Dex. I began the task of putting this journey to bed 8 months later. On the 19th of June, I turned on my Switch 2, I set my camera up, made sure I could defeat Mewtwo for when it eventually shined, and started the final hunt. It was kinda nice setting up to hunt after so much time since the last one, and over the course of the next week, I put in a good amount of time each day. The game gave me one last good hunt to commemorate the end of the challenge. Not too long that it became tedious, but long enough for me to savor the last moments playing this game. So when it finally appeared...
There he is. Whoa, oh my god.
I was happy.
Alright, 1,096 encounters. I have finally finished the challenge. And it's done. I need to be like more excited about this. He's green. Is it like skin number 5 from Smash Ultimate? That's him. A year and a half. We're finally here. It's finally done. First time ever using a Master Ball. There he is. It's over.
With Mewtwo, we had 150 unique shinies, a completed shiny Living Dex in the Let's Go games.
This Bulbasaur was caught on the 1st of January. This took me 8 hours. I think this is the first shiny I ever caught, or it's this one. I used this Persian all the time. It was my ride Pokemon. I juiced it up so that I could use Payday in the Elite Four, and so much fun. The Abra method. Oh, the Abra method was so much fun too. Tentacruel, some of my first Repel Reset shinies. These guys, when I sacrificed isn't here because they died. My goat, I love Farfetch'd. Ghastly, Haunter, and Gengar all found the exact same day. I'm like folding laundry in my room. That was when I was like, I love this game. I don't know, I had a lot of fun with this hunt. I was mean to this Drowsy and it caused me a lot of pain. I don't know what this is and I don't really like it. Don't even look at me. Get away from me. I think this might be one of the hardest hunts in this game. Oh my god. I mean, I think I've said all I need to say about Pinsir. That was wild. Now we have the fossils. We got Scumbag. Do not like this guy. This was the worst hunt in the game by a long shot. Zapdos was really rough. I was going crazy. I was delusional. And that just leaves us with Mewtwo.
And right now, I feel weird. I completed a Let's Go Shiny Dex just to feel something. And I felt a lot of things. Mostly good. I had a lot of fun. But it's made me realize that I can still be passionate about shiny hunting. And I am. But I love doing it as a project. As a big thing to work towards, and hopefully as something to share with people. A challenge is over. So all that's left to do is look at the numbers. From that first Metapod to Mewtwo, it took me just under a year and a half to complete this whole living dex, but that's between all my really long breaks, so how long does it actually take? Well, for me, 895 hours. Of which 825 of those were spent in Eevee and just 60 spent in Pikachu. My in-game time for Eevee says 526 hours, but that's just time spent doing normal hunts or doing other prep, which means I spent just under 300 hours on these soft resets alone. 9 shinies took up just over a third of my playtime. In total, I found 234 shiny Pokemon throughout this challenge. 150 were targets, making up the living dex. However, I had 77 duplicates, 6 fails, and 1 Weedle removed from existence. My most productive month was January with 62 shinies, and aside from the soft reset hunts at the end, March was my least productive month at just 7 shinies found. Thanks, Kabuto. While my longest chain was 1,110 Mankey, I actually caught more Goldeen overall at 1,199 total. Thank God the devs made it only appear in that tiny pond, otherwise maybe I would have enjoyed at least a single moment of those 1,200 catches, and I don't deserve that. Fastest hunt, I think, would have been Seal, while my slowest hunt was obviously the first Kabuto, even though I went more over odds on the Zapdos. And I also want to give a shout out to the Pinsir I let despawn, because that was crazy. Finally, let's look at our duplicates. Of the 77 total, a decent chunk are made up of random species that I caught 1 or 2 extra of, like Bulbasaur or Pinsir, but the bulk of them were the repeat offenders. Honorable mentions go to the Zubat and Spearow lines, of which I found 7 duplicates each. In third place, we had the Geodude line. These guys wouldn't stop showing up in Mount Moon, and I probably would have found more if I didn't have God intervene. In second place, we actually had a tie. With both having 10 duplicates found, it was Pidgey and Chansey! Pidgey and Chansey both had the same issue in that they are a predominant part of a mechanic that is available almost everywhere. Pidgey is almost always in the sky, even though most of my dupes of it were found on the ground, and Chansey is the rare spawn for like 80% of the areas in the game for some reason. This means that our first place finisher is the Rat! I found 12 duplicate rats throughout the course of this video, which is way too many. I kind of expected the bird or the egg to be the most prevalent shiny, but it makes sense that Rattata was the most persistent. He never ceased to show up at my darkest moments. The last notable duplicates were Charmander and Porygon, 2 Pokemon that I thought were going to be much rarer than they ended up being. The Let's Go games really get a lot of criticism for being so different to the other mainline titles, and I get why. When they were the only mainline games on the Switch and they had just taken so many mechanics away, the battling system sucked, the dex was just Gen 1 Pokemon, it definitely did feel like a letdown of a debut Switch title. However, I really fell in love with this game over the last year and a half. The differences in this game have become its strengths. The shiny hunting is some of the most satisfying in the franchise. The game has following Pokemon and even the ability to ride on the shinies you collect. And while the battling system has been boiled down, its catching mechanics are not just unique, but have a lot of depth and can require a lot of skill. If you brushed over this game or just wrote it off as a Pokemon Go extension when it came out, I really encourage you to give it a second look. I played so much of this game in the last year and a half, and I genuinely think that it's worth checking out. This project has been so much fun to work on. I really hope you enjoyed it. I started it on a whim and ended up putting a lot of love and over 1,000 hours of my life into it. So if you've watched this whole thing, thank you so much. If you want to leave a like or a comment on the video, I know those sort of things help with more people seeing this video, so I really appreciate it. And I'd love to hear what you have to say, whether it's positive or negative. I also already have plans for other videos, so if you want more, subscribing to the channel will help you see those videos when I put them out. Again, thanks for watching. Have a good one.